Welcome back to Chasing News. I'm Bill Spadia. We've got a lot more on Hurricane Irma. Some are calling it Irmageddon. But before that, I want to check in with Ashley Johnson, who's got a story of another controversy over a statue, this time at the Jersey Shore. But this one a little different. There are two sides of the debate, and some people saying keep the statue right where it is may surprise you. Ashley Johnson, what do you got for us?
A huge fence surrounds the statue of Asbury Park's founder, James A. Bradley. The city recently put up the fence in preparation for the weekend's Oyster Festival. But now some residents want the statue removed, claiming it celebrates a segregationist and racist.
Because he thought, based on his economic interests initially, that black people shouldn't be allowed on the boardwalk because white folks felt uncomfortable with that.
Asbury Park now joins the movement we've seen across this country to have statues that represent hate or racism removed. It speaks to the same sentiment I covered with some New York City council members wanting the statue of Christopher Columbus removed from Columbus Circle because of his brutality towards Native Americans. Randy Thompson, the founder of Help Not Handcuffs, a social justice organization and longtime Asbury Park resident, says it's important for white people like himself to denounce racism.
As a white man in America, to say, I recognize that racism is unfortunately very embedded in our culture. I think the statue of James A. Bradley is just one sneaky representation of that.
Others argue tearing down a statue won't erase history.
And if you were to judge everybody, whether they were a segregationist or discriminate against others, you would probably have to remove just about every statue or memorial plaque in America.
Activists say the next step will be to hold a rally and potentially start a petition to have James A. Bradley taken down. In Asbury Park, Ashley Johnson with Chasing News.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, I want to bring in a local resident, very concerned. He's got a group, Veterans for Peace. His name is Mawada Green. Mawada, welcome to Chasing News. What do you say?
In America, we kind of celebrate a revisionist fairy tale history of how this country was developed and how it was founded, and not realizing that it was founded on, oppression and slavery and racism. And he's one of the oldest symbols of that because he was a segregationist. And me as a person who's a veteran, and also as a citizen of this city and country who pays taxes, to have a statue like this in a public park that my taxes help maintain is kind of an insult to me on all those levels.
Mawada, why the outrage now? I mean, this guy has been in this park, this statue, for nearly 100 years. Why the outrage now?
Well, because in America, the contradiction of race has always been swept under the rug. Now it's coming out more and more.
What do you say to the civil rights activists? I mean, one of the local leaders, the Reverend Gil Caldwell, who marched with Martin Luther King, would tell you, you know what, we got to be careful that we don't tear all these symbols down because you want to have these conversations. We are not in a post-racial society just yet.
I agree with him. Majority what he says. I know the Reverend Gil, and I feel that what he says, we can have some basic disagreements about certain things, but I feel sure if we had more talk about it, he would understand my point of view. And we're just saying if you want to have a museum where you put these type of things, and not saying to erase history.
Mawada, let me just ask you, what do you do about it? What is your group going to do about it if they decide to keep the statue where it is? Do you think it warrants vandalism and violence?
I'm not saying that. I don't support that type of stuff, but I'm saying there are many ways to push the system politically to make it happen, because we as taxpayers, and we the people are the final word and stuff. It's the city administration that we vote in.
Mawada, thank you. Appreciate you joining me tonight.
No problem.
All right, I want to bring in our A-plus panel tonight. We've got Serena DeMasso here, Monmouth County, New Jersey freeholder. Good to have you here. Always good to see you on the show.
Thank you.
Mike Donovan is back. You are a civil rights advocate. Mike, I want to start with you on this.
Sure.
There seems to be a debate raging on both sides of this, of civil rights activists, black Americans on both sides saying, keep it, tear it down. What do you say?
Tear it down. Tear all these statues down. It's a needless waste of time to be having these debates and to have taxpayer dollars funding the upkeep of these symbols that harken back to times where we've moved beyond certain things. We aren't perfect in race in this country by any stretch of imagination.
But Mike, you came out strong on that, tear it down. But now this guy was accused of being a segregationist, very different from the slaveholders who are our founding fathers. Do you change the money? You tear down the Washington Monument? Where do you stop?
Sure. Here's the thing. I think yes. I think that when we idolize people, we build monuments to idols. We tend to forget the reality of what these folks stood for. I think if you want to put plaques and other monuments alongside these to say this is what this person stood for and this is what harm it brought to the country, I could support something like that.
Serena, what do you think?
I think you can't make a better future by sterilizing the past. We have to make sure. So the suggestion of putting a plaque up that says he was also a segregationist, but this gentleman founded Asbury Park. He built up an area and made that area the best in New Jersey. People in the 1800s, in the late 1800s, came here from all over the place. And back in the day, it was a beautiful place to go and love and live.
Well, erasing history or not, either way, you're not going to solve the problems that Asbury Park has with the 31% of the people under the poverty line, crime, etc., by taking down a statue. And I'll say this, one of the most credible voices, somebody who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King, I think should at least be the one voice that everyone listens to before they move forward.
I agree with you.
All right, we got to leave it there, but I want to thank our panel, Serena DiMasso, Mike Donovan. Always great to have you guys on Chasing News. I got to wrap out of this and get to Dan Zarrow with your weather.